What's up, everybody? After taking a week off, we missed you. We're back here with Designated Diamonds, episode 3. I was down celebrating the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World and the Magic Kingdom. And as we do that, we hope to bring you some magic here this week. As we took a little break, we're back here for episode 3. And they say third time's the charm. So Brendan and I are hoping that our brackets that have been sent out to Major League Baseball will make one of us, if not both of us. Maybe we'll tie and we'll have to split the winnings, whatever it may be. But
I'm good with that.
He does not know my bracket. I do not know his bracket. And we're here for another edition of Designated Diamonds. All baseball talk here with you exclusively on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT and on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. And of course, archived on WakeUpCallDT.com as well. Brendan Murphy is my co-host. I am obviously here with you inside the Cafe Cubal Studios. Dan Tortora, a product of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and Dan Tortora Broadcast Media, Designated Diamonds. Brendan, how are we doing?
Pretty darn good. It's been a nice day. I mean, I had a day off for the first time in 2 weeks. That was pretty nice. Yeah, somebody decided they would take a trip down south on me, so we didn't have a show last week.
I was down in Florida looking up the new talent. I was down there scoping out everybody, spring training venues and Disney's Wide World of Sports and doing all that good stuff. I was actually pulling Wake Up Call /Dan on Disney /Superpowered Pop duty down in the great state of Florida and visiting family and visiting my brother Evan and, going to a wedding. I was actually the +1 in a wedding of the maid of honor because we're all friends. And so I went to a wedding where I knew the bride and the maid of honor and nobody else. And I sat at the head table. So it was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. But I definitely missed my co-host here, Mr. Brendan Murphy. So, Brendan, we're going to hop right into this and have some fun with this. So we appreciate you all for being here. And like I said, I missed you last week. You can be with us every single Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's Tuesdays at 8 right here on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT and on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT. So, Mr. Murphy, we are talking wild card as well as the series themselves after the two wild card series are saddled up. Once those are done, we'll talk about the series. Again, I don't know Brendan's bracket. He does not know my bracket. We filled them out totally separate. He was on the phone with me when I filled it out, and I was silent in what I was doing. So the cool thing is he was there, but it was like I was behind a curtain. So he has no idea what I picked. I have no idea what he picked. And we're going to be unveiling them to you and to each other as we go forward with this, which is a lot of fun. The wild card series, we didn't know at the time of us having this conversation here on Tuesday, October 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We didn't know if things were going to be locked up necessarily a certain way going into the week. Was it going to be Sunday? Was it going to be Monday? How are things going to be kind of saddled up? The Yankees did some good things. They put themselves in a great position. They swept the Sox at a time where they needed to get the brooms out more than ever, but then they faltered a little bit toward the end, leaving Boston as the 4 seed and the Yankees as the 5 seed. They're still playing each other in the same division of the AL East, and they're still going to duke it out, and the Rays are in there, so 3 out of 5 teams did get in, but we're seeing the fact that the Sox get to host it at home because of how the Yankees finished. And then on the other side of things, we have a very, very good reigning champion Dodgers team that's a 4 seed to a 5-seeded, very good, dare I say, underdog, even though I don't think they should be. They should be in a series already themselves, the 5-seeded St. Louis Cardinals. So let's open it up to the fact that the wild card series are going to see one of the greatest rivalries of all time in Yankees and Sox. And on the other side in the National League, we're going to see 2 teams that one of them is going to be bumped out when both of them could not only win a series, but could win the World Series. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the entire weekend leading up to Sunday was telling us that we could be in for a real treat coming either today or tomorrow, being Tuesday. They might have even had to push the wild card games back a couple of days. But no, the Yankees won, the Red Sox won, and the Giants won. So no game 163, so that was disappointing. I will say, after last year, and not having all 16 of those teams in the playoffs anymore, I
Yeah.
kind of miss it. I
Yeah.
thought that was a cool little postseason last year. And
Having
I don't know if
more
they're
than
going to.
half the league, you like that? The fact that
Yeah,
more than 50% made it?
I liked it, but I didn't like it. And I mean, I've always been like a traditionalist when it comes to baseball. I don't really want anything to change. I didn't want the DH in the National League, and last year it was successful, and now this year we're back to no DH, and we're finding out why it's gonna happen. It's gonna be in the CBA at the end of the year, and it'll be back. I would imagine there's going to be expanded postseason, but I would think this is probably the last conventional postseason that we'll have,
Okay.
and you're really going to have to enjoy it because you got some really good teams that made it in, and some really good teams that didn't make it in. You had a young Seattle Mariners team that was probably overachieving, wasn't quite ready to win. They lose on the last day of the season to the Angels. They probably are still a year or two away. A lot of their prospects are still coming up. Julio Rodriguez is still not in the major leagues yet. Jared Kelnick hit below the Mendoza line this year, so he wasn't very good. They got a long ways to go, but if this season proves anything for them, they're going to be good for a long time. And then you got the Toronto Blue Jays who missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, they did their job on Sunday. They beat up on the Orioles, but then the Yankees and Red Sox both won. The Red Sox came back from a deficit in the ninth inning, came back, tied it, and eventually won the game, and the Yankees walked off the Rays in the bottom of the ninth. Both of them move on. The Yankees are going to Boston to take on the Red Sox at Fenway, and we all know how that rivalry is.
Yeah.
But let's not forget that the Dodgers and Cardinals is a pretty old school rivalry too. I mean, they played each other in the playoffs for years and years and years. And back before divisions, you would have pretty much the Dodgers or the Cardinals going to the World Series nearly every year. And then the Giants too, but Dodgers and Cardinals in this situation here. But I mean, both teams are historically great franchises, both known for their pitching. I mean, the Cardinals had Bob Gibson. They've got Adam Wainwright now, who's 40 years old and going to start the wild card game for them, I believe. Let me just double check that. But yeah, this is going to be a very, very interesting couple of days as we get set for the wild card games. But Yankees Red Sox, I guess you got to start with first because they're the game that's happening tonight on Tuesday, and it's Garrett Cole versus Nathan Eovaldi. Garrett Cole, I would venture to say, probably going to be the runner-up for the Cy Young, and after a while, trying to figure it out with all the sticky stuff when the crackdown happened, kind of slowed down a bit, but figured it out. Still pitched to a sub 3.3 ERA, still with 243 strikeouts, second in the league, and he's pitched great down the stretch. Had a couple of hiccups in his last two starts of the season, but he's a guy that has pitched well against the Red Sox more than once. And Eovaldi at the same time, not exactly someone that that you would particularly want to start this game if you're the Red Sox. I think if the Red Sox would have won a game or would have not needed to win on Sunday, they probably could have held Chris Sale back and pitched him in the wild card game. They might be able to get an inning or two out of him out of the bullpen, considering he only pitched 2 1/3 on Sunday. But he's coming back from Tommy John surgery. I don't think you want to overdo it. But I mean, if I'm the Red Sox and I'm Alex Cora, you might not need it. You might not have a choice.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this history, kind of to go back. I mean, not that people don't know that this is a deeply hated rivalry. If you're in Boston, the Yankees. If you're in New York City, If you're in the Bronx, you know the Red Sox. And at the heart of this, Babe Ruth, who was a Red Sox, then became a Yankee, one of the greatest players of all time, who was who was the greatest home run champion of all. He was the home run champion, was the greatest of all time with that, and was passed by Hank Aaron. And then nobody else passed him because I don't believe in people passing people that did it with brute strength. So shout out to the real champ, Hank Aaron. And number 2,
rest in peace, Hank.
Babe Ruth. Yeah, Hank is incredible. Babe, incredible. And it's crazy because, Hank was alive all the way up to, during Corona times, it's like all these wonderful people left. And I know, unfortunately, some people had this in their family, and I'm sorry. And I pray and I hope to every single one of you that, God puts his healing hands on you and helps you get through this. Hank Aaron was one of those people that seemed like he was going to live forever. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to find something of Hank Aaron. This is when he was still alive. And I'm going to look for it as we discuss here because I don't readily know where I put. Oh, yes, I do know where I put it. It's right here. So I put it in my little special side pile here, and it is it's not a jersey card. It's something different, and it's the only card that I have of this nature. It is a Hank Aaron, and there's only 200 in the world. This is number 75. It's a piece of Hank Aaron's bat.
Oh yeah,
so you can see that.
I don't have an external camera on the computer, but if you look a little bit over to my right, maybe 15 feet to my right, is boxes and boxes and boxes of baseball cards. I got some. Actually, maybe I'll bring them out for a show in the future because I don't want to get up and leave right now. But I've got anybody who knows me knows that Mike Piazza was my favorite player ever. And I have probably about 200 to 300 Mike Piazza cards.
Yeah.
A lot of them are not duplicates. Like, I've got a lot of different, versions of cards from his playing career. I got a few bat cards. I got a few jersey cards. A couple. I don't think I have any autograph cards, but behind me there is, I think it's the one at the top. There is an autographed baseball from Mike Piazza that I actually bought before I went to his Hall of Fame induction back in 2016.
Yeah.
And I will sell that if I get one signed personally. So I'm hoping and praying that maybe one day I stumble across him, maybe at a Mets game, or maybe if I'm over in Italy and he's working with his soccer team, and maybe I'll meet him over there. But I'd love to meet him one day. He was my hero as a kid. And he was the reason why I wore number 31 in a lot of sports. But, the last year, they were talking about it when I was watching the Hall of Fame induction this year, which, by the way, was on a Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
Still didn't understand that. That made no sense.
Yeah, it was weird because I was in Cooperstown before. I brought my dad for a Father's Day gift that I had promised him over 10 years ago. And we went, and all the Jeter stuff and everything was there, and all these signs were there, but it was very strange as to how the ceremony was. It felt like an unceremonious ceremony this year.
Yeah.
It was a very, strange.
And and you kind of feel bad for some of those Hall of Famers too. You kind of feel bad for Jeter. He probably deserved better. But I mean, having been there for an induction ceremony, it's one of the coolest things ever. If you at home have never been, especially since a lot of the people that are watching this are probably from upstate New York and not all that far away from Cooperstown, it is so worth it. I've been there twice in my life. Once when I was young, I went with my parents. It was actually New Year's Eve one year. And the other time was for Mike Piazza's Hall of Fame induction ceremony. For the induction ceremony, all of Main Street in Cooperstown is decked out.
Yeah.
You've got Hall of Famers at every street corner signing autographs. You've got Hall of Famers in different sports card shops signing autographs. You got all the I was in heaven for 36 hours being up there. And
did you
it was
get
so worth
autographs? Did you go around?
I did. I got a few behind me. Let me see which ones are back here. So the ones I got that day, let me find those. I'm breaking down my tower here, but I don't really care. So I got 3 that day.
Okay.
I had 2 former Mets, guys on the '86 World Series team. I got, here we go. I think the first one I got was Jesse Orosco.
Okay.
That's this one right here. Unfortunately, the ink is starting to fade a little bit because this is 5 years old, and it wasn't on a great baseball. It was on like a Walmart official league baseball because I didn't feel like buying official baseballs.
Yeah.
And then I met Howard Johnson and got a ball signed. I actually talked to him for, I saw 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because there weren't many people getting autographs from him, so it was kind of keeping him occupied, gave him something to do, and talk baseball a little bit. So that was really fun. And then my favorite one that I got, and to me, he's still the greatest hitter to ever live. I bought an official baseball for this one and had it certified about 10 minutes after I got it signed. The one and only Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose. I got a picture with him too, and that was one of the coolest experiences of my life, getting to meet Pete Rose. Yeah. And I told him that he was due, and he was going to get into the Hall of Fame someday. And he's kind of smiled, and I guess he moved on to the next person who was getting a picture taken and getting a ball signed. But that one was really cool. That was one of the coolest moments of my life.
No, and thank you for sharing those moments, because those moments are priceless. And I know that baseball fans all over the world that are watching this are sitting here seeing that and might be thinking the same thing about those same players, or thinking that about a different player. It's sparking the memories of when they got to meet someone, when they got something signed, or a childhood memory, or even a memory here as an adult that they've gotten to do something. So I know that when we talk about stuff like this, it undoubtedly calls a lot of very fond memories to mind for sports fans everywhere. And it's funny with Pete Rose, his name is all over the Hall of Fame, but he's not in it. And he can stand outside of it and get autograph things, but he's not in it. And there's actually digital boards and interactive things in there now where Pete Rose's name is up there, and people say and they have a poll where you can vote, and it says do you think he deserves to be in the Hall? And people can actually vote while they're going through the Hall of Fame. So it's just interesting to me when you see somebody's name within it, but they're not. And hopefully that'll change at some point. Hopefully I'm always a believer that the NCAA will give Boeheim his 101 wins back when he's dead. They'll put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame when he's dead. And I don't think that's fair. It's almost like taking a shot at a dead man. I mean, it literally is, because it's we'll give him a ceremony and we'll honor him and we'll admit that he deserves to be there when he's not even here to celebrate it. But that's the vibe I get from the NCAA and from the Hall of Fame. But I hope I'm wrong, and I don't think I am, but I hope I am. And I think it's great you got to meet Pete Rose, and I know that was a big thing for my Papa Joe and his son Joey, is that Joey got to do that and got to do something for his dad with Pete Rose, which was really cool. Yeah.
And honestly, going back on your other point, the NCAA did the same thing to Joe Paterno. I mean, that whole scandal, that whole thing was a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, you could make the argument that killed him, literally.
Yeah.
I remember my fifth grade history teacher. I'm sorry, my fifth grade math teacher was a huge Penn State fan, and at the time, he had said something that he had heard from Joe Paterno, where Joe Paterno had said, I do not want to stop coaching because I know if I do, I'll be dead in 6 months. Sure enough, gets fired because of the whole Sandusky scandal, and he's dead within a year.
Yeah.
Coincidence? I think not. Sad, but they did eventually give him all his wins back and kind of let him go a little bit. So, because obviously it wasn't all his fault.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a tough thing.
Like he did anything.
You what?
I mean, it's not like he. I mean, yes, he could have reported what was going on, but it's not like he had a lot of knowledge of the situation. So
well, the thing is, at the end of the day, what happened off the field was horrific. It had nothing to do with what was on the field. So you can't take the wins away. You can't make the players suffer and, the school suffer. But for what Jerry Sandusky did to make people suffer and their family suffer and children suffer is just it's an unspeakable horror. And there's really nothing to say about it other than the fact that I just pray and hope to God that the people that were affected in any negative way, shape, or form find peace, find God, and don't continue the path, because people who are abused tend to carry that on. And so it's just my hope that that doesn't happen, But that was that was a very strange thing to see Joe Paterno. And if you go and you watch actually really good movies on HBO, if you watch Paterno, where Al Pacino plays Joe Paterno, it goes into the stress that he endured as a very old man. And some people didn't feel bad for him, like saying, hey, listen, you deserve the stress. You should have done something and this and that. But it kind of shows the fact that he can't, it was honestly, for all the things that Pacino did, I think that was one of the best movies he's done. Was Paterno.
I actually have not seen that movie, so I'm gonna have to watch it now.
Yeah, you need to watch it. I just remembered as we're talking about this that was something that I had watched, but I don't have as great of a story. I have better stories about other things, and I'll share them on other shows as we go on here. But this baseball is signed by the Goose Gossage here. It says Hall of Fame 2008. You can see the ball's a little bit dirty here. Little markings here. It's
That's because you don't have it in a case.
I know. It's a very pristine ball. It's just got little marks on here. But Goose signed this, and I did I helped with a charity event. Did a charity event for kids. It was I don't want to even say I was no big part of it. There was a lot of great people that worked on this. Did McMahon Ryan Child Advocacy Center and did a fantastic job, and I just so happened to bid on the Goose, and I got the Goose. So a little bit different.
He was there when I was in Cooperstown.
I would love, and that's
I think he was $50 for an autograph, and I didn't feel like paying that.
No, see,
Pete Rose, mind you, I ended up paying $100 for that, but it was worth every penny.
No, and I think the Goose. I think if my man Whitey was still alive, Whitey Ford and I have the same birthday, so I would have
really,
and I would have loved October 21st. I would have loved the opportunity, and the whenever I think about Whitey Ford, I think about the day I found out he has the same birthday as me, and I was at the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Stadium for the Yankees, and I was walking by a picture of Whitey Ford, and it had his birthday up, and I was like, "Shut up! He's got the same birthday as me." And that never left my mind that I saw on the poster Whitey Ford, and I was like, well, that's pretty freaking cool. So, because I grew up and my dad and my grandfather, big Yankee fans. So, and I had Mets glasses as a kid. So I kind of was a fan of, I liked them both growing up. I didn't really root against either one of them. And so, for me, seeing the Yankees, and they tell you that you're not supposed to touch any of the plaques, but I'm like, the players touch these plaques. So I brought my dad a few months ago. I have a ton of pictures. I put a bunch of them on my Instagram at wakeupcall_DT. I have more than I need to put up though. And I can tell you that there's a few that I picked and chose but I definitely touched like the Hank Aaron's and the Babe Ruths and the Whitey Fords and the Joe DiMaggios. There's ones that have Dan Tortora fingerprints on them. So
I've got a picture in front of the Babe Ruth plaque in the Hall of Fame. I didn't go in when they put Piazza's plaque up, and I was disappointed that I didn't. But at the same time, I do remember walking into the Hall of Fame that day. Fair warning, if you're going to the Hall of Fame induction weekend, do not go to the Hall of Fame on Saturday. Just don't do it. It is packed. It is not worth it. You're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah,
you got to go, stay the extra day, stay till Monday, and then go. Because from what I found out afterwards, Mike Piazza was signing autographs at the Hall of Fame on Monday, and I was very annoyed that I wasn't staying.
Well, that's the thing. Like, that's the smart thing for some of these people. And you kind of just have to, like, those are the moments where you just kind of, like, you know, you get tipped off or you just have, I call it a God incident. I don't consider anything a coincidence. But, like, those moments where you just kind of walk through and you're like, this dude standing right here? Is it? Because Mike Piazza, to me, he's my favorite catcher of all time. And that's why I'm saying, like, there was always somewhat of a connection, like, something of the Mets. And he was always my favorite catcher. And I wasn't, like, growing up a Mets fan, but I just loved watching him. And I mean, us growing up, we were spoiled. There are a lot of good catchers. And I know throughout history, you know, there's a lot of great catchers that are out there. But Mike Piazza, to me, like, he was the guy that I really like to watch. And I'm pretty confident, I know that I do, in my phone, I do have a picture of his plaque because I made it a point to go to, like, every single plaque and then take the pictures of the, I don't know, 30 some odd ones that I especially wanted to go see. And I'm relatively confident I touched Mike Piazza's plaque because I think I said to my dad, this is my favorite catcher of all time. And the Randy Johnson one, I put my face right next to that one because Randy's a Diamondback and I'm a Diamondback fan since day zero. So, but yeah, I mean, to see Randy Johnson there, to see Mike Piazza, to, you know, see the Babe and see Yogi, and there's just something to be said about being in that room. And I don't know, just like coming to terms with the fact that these are real people, because something inside of you kind of almost tells you, like, this was a movie. This was like the Sandlot. It didn't happen. And so when you're in this room, which is like, it's almost like being in, like, if you go to and I know some of these people are still alive, so I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's almost like when you go to, like, a cemetery and you see, like, that mausoleum. It's like this remembrance road of all of these fantastic people. And I think for a baseball player, especially, or a coach or what, I mean, as somebody to come through there and or someone whose dad brought him to games and whatnot, to just touch, or whose mom did, like, to just touch this stuff and be in this room, and it's silent. There was just people walking around, taking pictures, going near, like, but everybody was relatively totally silent.
Yeah, that room was, like, dead silent the first time I stepped foot in there. But it was kind of cool.
You look around, there's people. It's just quiet because everybody's kind of, like, having their own spiritual journey. And I mean, to go in there now, I mean, I went in there when I was 7, and here I brought my dad 28 years later. When I was 7 years old, I mean, it didn't look like this. But at 35, walking into this room and just seeing I mean, my Lord, the amount of people that are in there, it really makes you think about the thousands upon thousands of players that played the game in and of itself. But to just be in that room and see all of those names, you know, it would behoove you to go in there now. I would imagine my grandmother, who lived to be almost 101, if she had gone in there at like 40 or 50 and then went in at 100 and saw, like, oh, like, every player that she's ever seen play, you know what I mean? Like, she would know, I know that guy and that guy. Like, she knew Ernie Davis. You know, if you mentioned Ernie Davis to her at 90 some odd years old, she remembered him playing football for Syracuse and Jim Brown and all that. So And it was really cool. On her 100th birthday, Floyd Little, may he rest in peace, one of my closest friends, and there's plenty of stuff of Floyd here. I actually had to move his hat to take out the Goose Gossage baseball. Floyd did a 100-year birthday celebration video for my grandmother. And I had him do it in July. Her birthday was December 15th. And I had him do it before he left because he was moving back to Vegas. And I told him, and I said to him, I was like, her birthday wasn't in July when you did it. I said it was in December. He goes, well, I knew she'd make it. I knew she'd make it. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's sports is such a beautiful world. It's such an amazing thing. It's what brought Brendan and I together. We wouldn't even be doing this show if not for sports. So, I think there's majesty in it. There's beauty in it. And it's so poetic. So, yeah, I think, on a day that we're talking about the current playoffs, it's fun to go back and talk about all these incredible people that came before. And to go to that point, while we're looking at this Yankees-Red Sox matchup, I ask some of you out there, do you know these things? Head-to-head in the regular season, the Yankees have the advantage. 1,163 wins, and the Red Sox have 966. Head-to-head postseason meetings in 2004, the ALCS, Boston over New York, 4-3. 2003, the ALCS, New York over Boston, 4-3. The 1999 ALCS, New York over Boston, 4-1. Head-to-head no-hitters. In 1908, Cy Young for Boston did it. Rube Foster for Boston in 1916. George McGridge did it for the Yankees in 1917. Allie Reynolds did it in 1951 for the Yankees. And Dave Righetti did it for the Yankees in 1983. Head-to-head cycles, 1903, Patsy Doherty of Boston. 1940, Joe Gordon of the Yankees. And notable players who made an impact on both sides, Wade Boggs on both teams, Roger Clemens, Johnny Damon, Jacoby Ellsbury, Carl Mays, Sparky Lyle, Herb Pennock, and, of course, as I mentioned before, Babe Ruth, who many people may not know this too. Babe was a pitcher and the outfield. So he probably would have been a DH in today's world as well. So
he would have done what Shohei Ohtani's doing. Yeah. Why do you think they called Shohei Ohtani the Japanese Babe Ruth? I mean, because nobody has done what Ohtani has done this year since Babe Ruth in over 100 years. And, it's something that he did. Now, let me ask you something. We obviously mentioned that the Red Sox sold Babe Ruth to the Yankees.
Yeah.
Do you know how much it was for? And B, do you know why they did it? Because I got a good story for you if you don't.
I want to tell you that when I went, I'm looking right now. I want to tell you that when I went to the Hall of Fame, because I know that I spent a lot of time with his story, and I want to pick it up here. Hold on, give me 1 second here for the Babe on this, because there was something. Okay, so here it is. Is this it? Yeah. Okay, so I took a picture of the actual uniform agreement transfer of Babe Ruth back in the day. So I have a picture
of the contract?
Of the contract.
Oh, yeah. $125,000 is all it costs for the Yankees to buy Babe Ruth. And for what? The Red Sox owner to finance his theater opportunities.
Yeah,
that was the reason behind.
Yeah.
The Red Sox owner at the time, his name was Harry Frazee. The reason why he wanted to sell Babe Ruth was because his theater business was failing, and he needed money. He had an asset, he sold it, and he had more money. Cash infusion. Did it work out? No idea. Never got that far, but. It's an interesting story, and I mean, it's how the curse of the Bambino really started. And until 2004, the Red Sox didn't win a World Series since 1918, when Babe Ruth was on that team.
Yeah, this is crazy. Oh no, this was actually. Oh, let me see here. This was a different one that I showed you. This was him coming from the Providence International League to the Boston American League Baseball Club, because this was 3. So I didn't show you the right one this first time out. For those of you that took a screenshot of what I just showed, this is the consideration. It was $300. So this one says this agreement made and entered.
That would have been what, 1914?
So this is the 220 something day of August. Let's see here. It was 1914. I'm looking at this right now. Providence International League Baseball Club and Boston American League Baseball Club. The party of the first hereby is the party of the second. George H. Ruth, outright for the consideration of $300. So Babe Ruth was originally sold for $300.
Do I need to go get my poker money because I got $300 in my drawer? I could have bought Babe Ruth for that.
$300. $300.
Oh, man.
And this says 25. Oh, this is 25,000. This is let's see here. Oh, this is the one. This is the one to New York. Okay, so this says by herein assigning the party of the second part contract George Herman Ruth for the seasons of 1919, 1920, and 1921 in consideration of the sum of $25,000 and other good and valuable considerations. This is the one that says Boston American to the American Baseball Club of New York. So here's the other one.
Yeah, there's that one.
So there you go.
That's pretty darn cool. They got some cool stuff up there.
Yeah, so these are the actual these are the actual contracts. $25,000. Like, think about that. Like, think of $25,000. Some people pay that in some people pay that in fines for like a day of practice that they miss. And then before that, $300. $300. Okay, let me put this in perspective. You just said you had it from your poker money. That's what I just spent to rent my car in Florida for 9 days. I just paid $303. So I just paid to rent a car for 9 days more than it would have cost me to buy Babe Ruth out of my team.
I just had to get a fan fixed in my car that cost me $100 more than that.
Yeah.
But I will say this, though.
Yeah.
I think we're probably a good half hour in and we haven't even made any predictions yet. So I'm going to be a good co-host and try to get us back on track here.
Well, I was trying to get us back on track when I went
history
to history and brought us back to the Yankees and Sox.
Hey, it was a good conversation because, I mean, with that rivalry, there's so much history behind it.
Yeah, we could spend shows just on nostalgia, and we could spend shows just on the Yankees and these good old Sox. So let's take.
We really could, and
very much
honestly, we really could, and we probably will at some point in the off season. Yeah. Because while they're talking CBA, we're going to need stuff to talk about. So there's plenty of nostalgia topics that we could talk about.
While they're verbally attacking each other. You said talking. I'm going to say screaming.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. But I think we're still about a month away from that. But
yeah,
I'm worried. I really am.
I told you that when I saw Mommy and Daddy fighting during Corona, I said to myself that this is a sign of the CBA stuff. People should be very, very concerned that the prelude to the CBA, which was figuring out a Corona pandemic season in 2020, I said, if this is how these sides play, and it already spilled out publicly on the social media, people should be very, very concerned that if that's how they acted in 2020 during a pandemic, just trying to figure that out, then knowing that the CBA is coming and how not nice they play with each other, I can only imagine what that prelude is going to look like. And I hope that it's better, but if it's anything like we saw in 2020, I said the same words. I said, if this is a precursor to what we're going to see in the new collective bargaining agreement discussion, I am very, very, I'm concerned like back in the 90s CBA for Major League Baseball, and also back in like the 2011-12s for the NFL. I'm very concerned right now. So first half of the season, to get back to the Yankees and Red Sox wild card, first half of this year, the Yankees went 0-6 against the Sox in their two series, obviously one in the Bronx and one in Boston. And so that did not go over well. Baston. And then you had the series go in the Yankees' favor in the second half of the season, 2-1 in one of their series. And then in their following series with Boston, they went 1-3, so back on the losing side of things. Then they swept those Sox, and they would sweep them again. So they had two sweeps against us. So the Sox had two sweeps in the first part of the first half of the season. The Yankees had two sweeps in the second half of the season, and then they met somewhere around the middle amongst all of that. So the Yankees got the best of them late. The Red Sox got the best of them early. Your thoughts on who's going to get the best of this series of this very short wild card?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to come down at this point to the pitching. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Yankees pitching has been iffy over the last few weeks, but they got their ace on the mound, Garrett Cole. I mean, if the Yankees lose this game, it's one of those where you just tip your cap and move on and restock after the off season. But I mean, I'm not a big fan of this matchup for Nathan Eovaldi. I mean, he's done well against the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees are definitely a more balanced lineup now with Joey Gallo in there, with Anthony Rizzo in there. And I definitely think it's going to come down to the pitching. And I have the Yankees winning this game. I think they're going to live and die by Garrett Cole. If Garrett Cole pitches well, they're going to win this game. If Garrett Cole struggles, they're screwed. I mean, I will say this, though. If Luis Severino is coming out of the bullpen behind Garrett Cole, it's over.
Yeah. So are you going with the Yankees?
I'm going with the Yankees.
Okay. I am also, as we stated earlier, neither one of us has seen each other's brackets. As we revealed to you, we revealed them to each other. I am also picking the Yankees here. The Yankees have been back and forth. The seesaw has happened. I thought they would eventually course correct, and they did in the second half of the season. They did enough to get to where they needed to be. They faltered a little bit. As the seesaw goes back and forth, I think it'll lean on their side for this game. I'm going to give them the win. I am concerned, but I'm going to give it to Garrett Cole and the Yankees. Don't be surprised if this is like a 13-inning game, but I'm going to go Yankees in this one and say the Yanks will take it as we step forward here. So to take a look at that, that'll put the Yankees in your bracket and in my bracket as the 5 seed going up against the 1-seeded Tampa Bay Rays. Who wins in a true ALDS full series, the Yankees or the Rays?
Well, last year in this exact same situation, I picked the Yankees because I thought the Yankees were a much better team. And I thought that the Rays weren't really there yet.
Yeah.
I'm still baffled that the Rays managed to still win 100 games without a true ace. But it's a testament to how well run that organization is. They're getting the most out of every player on the field, and they're winning baseball games. They got 100 wins. So I'm picking the Rays. I mean, it's going to be a very good series. I think that one will probably go the distance. But I like the Rays because the Yankees are only going to have Garrett Cole once, and it's going to be in Game 3. And the Rays are going to be able to throw Shane McClanahan, I would imagine, will be their Game 1 starter. They're going to get to throw him twice. And Shane McClanahan, if you haven't seen him pitch, has nasty stuff. And I definitely like that matchup for him. And I go with the Rays to move on to the ALCS for the second year in a row.
Yeah, looking at this head-to-head matchup this season, Tampa bested the Yankees in the first half of the season in a series 2-1. Then they swept them on the road in the Bronx 3-0. And then they had a series where they went 1-2 against the Yankees, and then played a 4-game series where they went 2-2. One of them going into extra innings within all of that. That all in the first half of the season. In the second half of the season, Tampa Bay Rays up against the Yankees They went 1-2 in their series in July. One of those going extra innings as well. One of them, the one game that they won in that series, they won 14-0. The Tampa Bay Rays in that back in late July. And then looking later on here, what they just had on October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd this past weekend, which helped the Sox, was that they were able to go 2-1 against the Yankees in the Bronx and losing the last game, which was on October 3rd. I don't think that, that will be the last game that they lose to the Yankees. However, I do believe that they will win this series over the Yankees. So the Yankees will be able to beat them a couple times potentially here. We could see a full thing here, but ultimately I'm going to go with the Rays to move forward. I just feel like they have too much, and I'm a fan of Tampa. I think Tampa, I had picked them to make it to the end and really thought that they could do something there. And I know how good the Dodgers are, but the Dodgers kind of showed me that last year. It was not something that was in front of me. I really wanted Tampa to showcase themselves. So I'm going to have Tampa making it past the Yankees in this series. They got to 100 wins, as you said, 162, and congrats to them on that. So they'll make it out of the ALDS into the ALCS. The other matchup we have, the number 2 seeded in the AL, Houston Astros, and the number 3 seeded Chicago White Sox. Are you going Astros or Sox to meet up with the Tampa Bay Rays in the ALCS?
This is another series that I think is going to come down to pitching. And the Astros all season have proven that their starting pitching is capable of winning baseball games for them. I mean, between an aging Zach Greinke, who is still pitching well, they've got Framber Valdez, who came back from a shoulder injury near the end of the season and has pitched well. Luis Garcia has been a revelation for them this year. He's pitched outstanding for them all season long. And they've had a solid bullpen. I mean, they went and got Kendall Graveman at the deadline to shore up the back end of that bullpen. And they're still a very good hitting team. They still got Correa. They still got Altuve. They still got Bregman. Gurriel. Hasn't been the greatest season for them ever, but they're proving that they didn't need trash cans to win games. They can still win games not knowing what pitch is coming. And then you look at the White Sox. I mean, you got a Hall of Fame manager in Tony La Russa, a very good rotation, Lucas Giolito, Dylan Cease. They've done outstanding all year. Dallas Keuchel has been up and down, starting to come around a little bit. They've got some postseason experience now, and I like the White Sox to come out of this series. I think this is another one that's probably going to go all 5 games, and I do like the White Sox, partially because I think the experience that Tony La Russa has over Dusty Baker really having not had much success in the postseason in his managerial career, Tony La Russa's got that edge. He's won a couple of World Series. He's a Hall of Fame manager. He's a veteran manager. He knows what he's doing. And he's managing the game unlike any manager in baseball right now because he's doing it old school. And the White Sox are winning baseball games. I've been high on the White Sox for years, and I think this is the year they finally win a series, and they move on to play the Rays in the ALCS.
Yeah, and looking at this for me, the White Sox and the Astros in the first half of the season, the White Sox dropped a series 0-4 to the Astros. And then in the second half of the season, at the beginning of that, July 16th, 17th, and 18th, 2-1, they had the series over the Houston Astros. So came back after the 0-4 in the first half and got 2-1 in the second. Looking at this, if Tampa were to play the Astros, their series against them are 1-2 and 1-2. If Tampa were to play the White Sox, their series against them are 1-2 and 2-1. They only have one winning series of those 4 series, and it's against the White Sox. And that's who I think Tampa's going to get. I think Chicago is going to make it out of this thing. despite how they started the season against the Houston Astros. Like you said, the only place I like to see people playing on trash cans, and I saw it, was at Animal Kingdom when they're on the boat. So I'm going Chicago White Sox. I'm going with my guy Cody Roscoe, defensive end for Syracuse, who wore that hat when him and I had a nice conversation. So I'm going to go with the Chicago White Sox. Cody, I'm going with you, brother. And I got the Chicago White Sox and Mr. La Russa, who is a very, very well-decorated manager, stepping forward to play the Tampa Bay Rays for the right to go to the World Series. Who makes it out of the American League?
I gotta ride my White Sox, man. I gotta go with the White Sox. I've been so high on this team for so long, and I want them to be successful. I really, really do. So I think their pitching's gonna get it done. My issue with the Rays is I don't think their starting pitching is deep enough to survive a 7-game series.
Okay.
I think the White Sox have enough, especially considering how good their bullpen is, between their solid, very good rotation and their elite bullpen. I like the White Sox to come out of this series. I'm going to say in 6 games, and they're going to go to the World Series.
They play differently. As Papa Joe has said on the show, to some people, it could be annoying to play, 19 pitchers in a game. But they do things very different. They're not your typical team. They win this way. It's not cheating. It's their own way of playing their own brand of baseball. And I have to give it up to a city that only knows itself as Tampa Bay right now. The Buccaneers, the Lightning, and they almost had the hat trick with the Rays if the Rays had done it last year. I think the Rays will find their way to this year's World Series, and the number 1 seed will give it their best shot as the team that I will announce in a little bit that they'll face in the National League. I'm riding Rays all the way to the World Series. Chicago, I respect you, and I believe that this will go 6 games to the other side, and I'm picking the Tampa Bay Rays.
I like it. I respect it. Got no problem with that.
So you and I have the same bracket, except for the end, with me picking the Rays and you picking the Sox. On the other half, in the National League, the Dodgers, a 4 seed, with 106 wins.
That's just crazy to think about. Oh, man.
It's like the NFL when there's a team that makes a wild card with an 11-5 record, and then a 7-9 team is hosting a home playoff game because they won the division.
Yeah, and then the 7-9 team wins.
Yeah. So Go ahead.
I don't think that's going to happen in this case. The Cardinals were red hot coming into the final weekend of the season.
Yeah.
They clinched their playoff spot, lost a game or two. I hope for their sake it's not the end of their mojo, but I think they're starting to cool off just at the wrong time. I mean, I know obviously you got the celebration hangover, but
yeah,
I like the Cardinals a lot. They're a team that really surprised me this year. They made some really interesting moves at the deadline. They went and got 2 starting pitchers who, if you asked me this 3 months ago, I would have said, why in the world are they going to get these 2 guys? But J. Happ and John Lester have been solid acquisitions for the Cardinals. They're not the all-stars that they used to be, but they're guys that can help hold down a pitching staff, and they're guys with postseason experience. And if they were to get past the Dodgers in this series, I think they would have a solid chance against the Giants.
Yeah.
But I can't pick against the Dodgers here, man. They're too good. They're too good to lose this game. And if they lose this game, obviously the season's a failure. But after having the trade for Max Scherzer and Trey Turner, I can't pick against them. I just can't.
106 wins and 56 losses. Second only in America to the San Francisco Giants of the same division, 107 and 55, and so close to the final record of the Arizona Diamondbacks this year. Tampa Bay Rays, 100 wins made them the best in the American League. Both teams in the National League and in the same division of the National League West had better records, with 107 wins to the Giants and 106 to the Dodgers, who chased each other all the way to the bitter end to get to this game, where a 106-win team will play a 90-win team, a good team in the St. Louis Cardinals, a team that they faced in the regular season in the first half of the season, won the series 2-1, and then lost in tied in a early September series 2-2 with the St. Louis Cardinals. This game may be more evenly matched than you think, maybe more dangerous than you think. And I believe that the Giants, Dodgers, or Cardinals all have a shot of coming out of the National League and going to the World Series. But only one of them can make it out of this piece of the bracket, which is very unfair, but it's true. Max Scherzer is going to be pitching in this game, and guess where he's from? Where does he call home? St. Louis, Missouri, baby. So, St. Louis versus St. Louis, as Scherzer will face off against the St. Louis Cardinals. And we will get to see if the hometown boy can beat the hometown team, which I think he will, as the Dodgers and the Giants will face off in what to some people will be the World Series in the NLDS, when the number 4 seed meets the number 1 seed. Who do you have coming out of the race that will continue, we both believe, into the postseason? Who finally gets to claim the NL West? The Giants or the Dodgers?
You know, at the beginning of the year, I still expected the Giants to be a team that was going to be below 500. Aging veterans, a manager that really had no business being a manager anymore after how poorly he did in Philly. And then they won 107 games.
Yeah.
Gabe Kapler should run away with the National League Manager of the Year award, because what he did with that ball club to win 107 games with a team that was not that much different than it was a year ago when they were one of the worst teams in baseball, that is impressive. I genuinely was very impressed by what they did. Farhan and his team in San Francisco are just doing a job. They're developing pitching. Logan Webb. I had never even heard of Logan Webb before this season. And he's like flat in the middle of the Cy Young race. That's how good he was. I'd never heard of the guy. But I'm probably going to be wrong. The Giants have beaten up on the Dodgers most of this year. I'm probably going to be wrong, but I'm picking the Dodgers for the same reason I picked them against the Cardinals. They're too good to lose. That team on paper is too good to lose to the Giants. This series goes the distance, 5 games. Dodgers are going to win it in San Francisco. It's going to be a very good series, very competitive series. Dodgers are probably going to be without Clayton Kershaw, which is going to be – it's going to make their rotation a little bit questionable, but they've got some of the best rotation depth in baseball. I'm not worried about them one bit. Between Scherzer, Buehler, Urias, I'm not worried about the Dodgers' rotation one bit. Their lineup speaks for itself. Max Muncy's hurt. He might not play in this series, but I think they'll be okay. I think Cody Bellinger can step back in and maybe figure out how to hit a baseball again, but I got to go with the Dodgers. They're too good to not pick them.
A combined 213 wins. My favorite number and my grandfather's number, Pop Cavino. Shout out to you in heaven. 213 as we step into this series to see who's going to take it all. The Dodgers in their first series of this season against San Francisco, won on the road 3-0. Then saw them just a couple games later in a 4-game series at home where they went 1-3. Then saw them for a 2-game series at home and avenged some of that, going 2-0 in the first half. In the second half of the season, when the Dodgers met the Giants at home again, 1-3. Then on the road, 1-2. Before they met them later on in the season on the road and went 1-2 again at San Francisco. They did well on the road. They didn't do well at home. And as I just stated, as time went on, they did worse on the road against San Francisco after getting them early, 3-0 in a series in San Fran. I believe that these teams are incredible, but only one of them is known to be resilient. One of them's the fan favorite. One of them's the expected. One of them was my preseason prediction to make it to the World Series, and that was the Dodgers. But as I look at the season itself and where we stand, a team that was able to stave them off for weeks is going to be able to keep that dog from grabbing that steak out of their hand just a little while longer. And I'm picking the San Francisco Giants to advance past the team that I thought was going to have a really good shot at winning another World Series. Now, granted, if they make it past this series, I feel like they're going to win the World Series. But the San Francisco Giants are going to do enough. I believe they've had the Dodgers number enough. And thinking about how close the Dodgers were, 1 game, half game, 2 games, and San Francisco wouldn't let them take it. Well, I think San Francisco is going to do enough to say, listen, we kept you in that spot for a reason, and they're going to send them home. And it's going to be heartbreaking, gut-wrenching, but I'm going to go with the slight advantage to San Fran because they've proven to me in the regular season that they can control the slight advantage. So they keep it.
Yeah, I mean, like you made a lot of great points, and realistically, this series could go either way. I just for me, I had to go with the experience. I mean, the Dodgers were there last year. Scherzer and Turner have won World Series before. They've been there. This Giants team, other than the vets, other than Belt, other than Posey, Crawford, most of this team hasn't been to the playoffs. I don't know what to expect from them. That's kind of why I went with the Dodgers, because of the experience.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with what you chose. And there's nothing, and preseason wise, I thought the Dodgers would get there. I had Dodgers Yankees in the preseason. So
I think everybody did.
I know Ross and I did. We went
the last 2 years we all did.
Yeah. So we'll see. I picked Tampa now that we've seen the season. I like to do the preseason because it's an open shot to take a look at it. And then you do one at the end of the season and what's actually there. And do you feel the same about it? Well, I feel good about the Dodgers, but I feel better about the Rays on the other side here. And I'm picking San Fran to beat the Dodgers in this one, although this is really tough. I'll be watching that very closely. I know the world will. The Milwaukee Brewers, shout out to Papa Joe's extended family, Mary T's family up in Wisconsin. The Milwaukee Brewers, they're loving them Brewers, and the Brewers fought their way to a number 2 seed, and everybody with the focus on the Dodgers and the Giants and the Yankees and the Sox and the AL East and everything going on there, they forgot that the Brewers were playing some baseball here. 95 wins, 67 losses, make it to the 2 seed, and the Atlanta Braves squeaked themselves out of an NL East that was highly contested, and yet with those highly contested top 3 teams, seeing teams end with a losing record, and how the Mets, which I was very concerned about early on, and we've talked about this, that Jacob deGrom, when he was sore and he was sore and he was sore and was he okay and he's getting an MRI, I thought to myself, you're using them, you're using them, you're using them, you're using them, you could lose them, and if you lose them, this thing's going to bite you in the butt because it feels really good and it looks really good right now, but if he's not 100% and he's not okay, this is eventually going to bite you in the behind, and it did. And what they had him for and the greatness that could have been ended with them not being able to see him out there, which ultimately led to them not being in the playoffs. And now the Atlanta Braves take that division from the Phillies, from the Mets, with an 88-73 record. Milwaukee, Atlanta, who is moving on to play the Dodgers for you, the Giants for me.
Get the brooms out, baby.
Ruh-roh.
Get the brooms out.
Okay.
Milwaukee's going to sweep them.
Okay.
I say it like that, but this
I don't
series
deny it.
It's not going to be competitive.
Yeah.
It's really not. I mean, I watched the Braves 19 times this year. They played the Mets 19 times. They're not good. Then again, neither were the Mets. But this Braves team is nowhere near as good as they were last year. Their pitching's been lackluster at best. Their lineup is off and on, and they still have a poor bullpen. Now, the Brewers, granted, they lost their setup man because he decided to punch a wall in their locker room celebration after they won the division, and he broke his hand. So he's not going to be pitching at all.
Yeah.
But they still got Josh Hader. They still got the best closer in the world. And it's not going to be close. Corbin Burns is going to carve up this lineup. Brandon Woodruff is going to carve up that lineup. And the Brewers are going to sweep the Braves. It won't be close. It will not be competitive at all.
I brought up the whole point of the Braves making it out of that not great division, lackluster division, for a reason. Because I don't think Milwaukee's going to have a problem either. Milwaukee saw them in a series in the first half of the season, went on into 1-2, and course corrected that at 2-1 after. I do not deny you the sweep. I do not believe Milwaukee is going to struggle. I see no threat in the Braves. When I saw them get into the playoffs, I went like this. That was my reaction. You know, it was kind of, okay.
Sure.
You know, every squirrel gets a nut, you know, at some point. So
somebody had to win the division.
Right. And so I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that if you and I fielded a team, we could have won the NL East coming down the stretch. So I'm going to go with Milwaukee, and this is going to be a sweep. Maybe the Braves get one, but I'm going to –
If they're lucky. If they win a game, it'll be game 3.
Yeah.
And that's if.
So
and I don't think they're going to do that.
I'm going to go Milwaukee on this. So the 2 seed meets my 1 seed San Fran. The 2 seeded Milwaukee Brewers meets your 4 seeded Los Angeles Dodgers. Who makes it out? I mean, I feel like I already know your answer, but who makes it out of this one?
Hey, I'm not spoiling nothing. What are you talking about? But you know, the Brewers are a really good team, and I bashed the Central divisions all last year, and I bashed them coming into this year. I didn't know who was good and who wasn't. A good friend of mine, my buddy Trevor Powers, was all in on Corbin Burns. It took me a little bit to really, buy in. The kid's amazing. His cutter is disgusting. Like it's Mariano Rivera like that's how good his cutter is.
Yeah.
And that's realistically, I don't even know if that's his best pitch. His slider might be better than that. So he's got unbelievable stuff. But the Dodgers haven't matched. Scherzer, Urias, Bueller. I mean, the Brewers are good. This is going to be a great series. I mean, I think this series goes the distance. It goes 7 games. But I think the Dodgers, they got a little bit more. I think the lineups are better. Yeah. The Brewers' lineups kind of struggled a little bit. Christian Yelich has not hit this year. And if the Brewers want to be successful and make a deep run, they need Christian Yelich. And he's just not hitting. I mean, he did start to come on a little bit in the second half, but he's not the Christian Yelich of old that won the MVP. He's not the Christian Yelich of 2019 who arguably could have won an MVP again, but if it wasn't for somebody named Cody Bellinger. But yeah, I gotta go Dodgers, man. I really hate to put down on the Brewers like this, but their lineup just isn't good enough. Dodgers are that much better, so I gotta go the Dodgers. It's gonna go 7, but it's gonna be a great series. But I'm gonna go the Dodgers.
When the Brewers met the Dodgers at home in Milwaukee in the first half of the season, they beat them 3-1. When they met each other this past weekend on October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, they lost every one of those 3 games and went 0-3, giving up 8 runs, and 10 runs. So no less than 8 runs in each of those 3 losses to the Dodgers. To make note on your pick, well, in my bracket, Milwaukee's playing San Francisco. And San Francisco up against Milwaukee this season to take a look back at how they played against the Milwaukee Brewers. This is something that, they didn't face each other in the first half of the season at all. And in the second half of the season, a 1-2 record is what Milwaukee had against them at home before going on the road and defeating them 3-1, San Francisco. So they got the best of San Francisco away from home and played both of their series in the second half of this season. Once again, going 1-2 in Milwaukee and coming back to play them after going 1-2 in Milwaukee and going 3-1 at San Fran. However, as much as Milwaukee could be a threat to other teams in the National League, I think that whoever represents the National League in the World Series is going to come out of the NL West. So it's your Dodgers.
Fair.
I have the Dodgers losing to the Giants, so it's my Giants. I have the number 1 seeded Rays playing the number 1 seeded Giants with a combined record of 207 wins in the regular season to 117 losses. What are your thoughts on your picks? Number 3, White Sox, and number 4, Los Angeles Dodgers. Who will win your White Sox-Dodgers World Series, which technically still has the Dodgers versus stripes because sometimes the White Sox wear them stripes. So, what do you think about
when they're at home?
Yes. So your thoughts on the Sox and the Dodgers in your World Series?
I will say first that I firmly believe that if it is the Brewers and the Giants in the NLCS, that the Brewers will go to the World Series. And the reason I say that is because I think the youth that Milwaukee has and how dominant their rotation is, I think that's going to outweigh the experience of the Giants.
Okay.
I mean, the veterans that the Giants have in that lineup, while good players, aren't the same as what they were 7-8 years ago. Buster Posey's not the MVP he was in 2012. Brandon Belt's not an all-star anymore. Brandon Crawford's not a gold glover anymore. But I think that would be a great series too. I mean, I think either one of those teams against Milwaukee is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But as for my World Series prediction between the Dodgers and the White Sox, I'm going to basically let this jersey do the talking.
There it is. I knew you were going there.
Of course, dude, I can't not pick the Dodgers.
I know.
Honestly. And it really has to do with the fact that this team on paper is arguably the best team to be fielded in the last quarter century. I don't really think it's very close.
You have to tell people that don't know math, that's 25 years.
I mean, Seattle had some really good teams with A-Rod and Ken Griffey Jr. and Edgar Martinez. They didn't really have the same type of pitching depth that this Dodgers team has. You had some really good Yankees teams back in the late 90s. You had some good Red Sox teams in the late 90s, early 2000s as well. That 2001 Diamondbacks team was really good. But, you know, I can't really think of one that was close to being anywhere close to how good this Dodgers team is right now. I can't find one. I really can't. And it's sad because I don't understand how this team got all these guys and still didn't win the division.
Because the Giants are resilient. Because of
they are
on their website. They're resilient.
Give credit where credit's due. But that team's too good to lose. Like last year, I thought they were too good to lose.
Yeah.
And they are miles better this year than they were last year. That team this year would kick last year's team's butt. They'd probably sweep them in the World Series. Granted, Cody Bellinger has not been a factor for the Dodgers this year. I do think that can change in the postseason, though.
Okay.
So I'm going Dodgers. Have not put money on them yet. I might. Haven't decided yet. Because I always pick somebody, and I can't think of anybody else other than the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I really can't.
Well,
Dodgers in 6, by the way. That would be my prediction.
I understand. Very much so. I have the number 1 Rays and the number 1 Giants. If you know me throughout the history of picking anything, I very rarely pick number 1 seeds across the board. So I didn't do that on purpose that they were number 1 seeds. But let me be clear. If the Dodgers beat the Giants, they're winning the World Series. Okay? If they take that part of my bracket, they're winning the World Series. The best thing that can happen to the Tampa Bay Rays in my bracket, the best thing that can happen to them is that the San Francisco Giants keep the Dodgers at bay. It's the best thing that can happen. San Francisco is Tampa's best friend en route to the World Series if they prevent the Dodgers from moving on, which they prevented the Dodgers from winning the division, and I think they're going to squeak them out here. If they get it by the skin of their teeth, here's the thing. San Fran's got to go through a tougher road than Tampa, in my opinion, to get there.
Agreed.
And going through that tougher road of having to play the Dodgers in a full series and then, in mine, having to play the Milwaukee Brewers in another series in the NLCS, I don't see how San Francisco will have enough gas by the time they meet the Rays, and the Tampa Bay Rays will win the World Series. If the Dodgers beat the Giants, the Dodgers are winning the World Series. If I get what I predicted and I get Tampa and San Fran, the best thing to happen to Tampa is San Fran having to run the gamut and go through that, and they keeping the Dodgers from meeting the Rays. Because if the Dodgers met the Rays, I'd pick the Dodgers. But I'm going with Tampa because by the time San Fran meets them, they're going to be tired, baby. They're going to have some bruises. And Tampa Bay is going to use that rotation like a mother, and they're going to swarm them, and Tampa's going to win the World Series. Tampa does it in mine because they play San Francisco.
I like that. And the way you broke it down, I think is perfect. I mean, if the Giants were to make the World Series, I think regardless of the American League team, the AL team will win. I think if it's the White Sox that they win, I think the Rays would win. I think the Yankees would win. I think the Red Sox would win. And I think the Astros would win. And I think it comes down to exactly how you put it. They're gonna be gassed. Yep. Because the Dodgers series is gonna be a grind. That series is probably going 5 games. And if they come out of that series alive, Logan Webb probably won't be available till game 2 or game 3 of the next series. That series is going to go deep. I would imagine that goes 6 or 7 games. Then you get to the World Series. The Rays, if they get there, will probably be relatively fresh. I don't really – if the Rays beat the White Sox or the Astros, I would imagine it'll probably be five games maybe. But regardless of who comes out of the AL, I think they would win the World Series in that situation.
Yeah.
And the same goes for if it was the Dodgers. I think regardless of who the Dodgers play, if they get to the World Series, they're winning it. If they get past the Giants, they're winning the World Series. I think that's how we can put it.
Basically, what we're saying is if the Dodgers get past the Giants are winning the World Series. If the Giants get past the Dodgers are losing the World Series.
Basically, yeah. I also don't think the Giants can get there if they beat the Dodgers. I think Milwaukee could take care of business there. I do.
Well, we will see. Brendan and I had almost the same AL, different NL. He's got the White Sox playing the Dodgers and the Dodgers winning. I have the Rays playing the Giants and the Rays winning. I have chosen the American League in this situation, and Brendan has chosen the National League. Will I be surprised if the Dodgers win? No.
Not at all.
But after talking about this entire playoff bracket, am I not ecstatic to sit my butt down and enjoy a Monster or a Rain from the great people at Monster and Rain and watch these games until the wee hours of the night, especially on the West Coast? Sure. I'm very excited. I am looking forward to this. We get to see Dodgers, Giants probably, and one of the greatest rivalries in the history of mankind between the Red Sox and the Yankees, and we get to see the feel-good story of the Tampa Bay Rays and the Brewers sneaking in here. So many good things to happen in this year's Major League Baseball playoffs. Enjoy it, folks. We will be with you all the way through. And I promise you, if I do decide, and when I do decide to travel, I will never, ever again forget to put Brendan in my carry-on bag.
Well, I will tell you this. When December rolls around and I'm in Florida, I'm still going to be doing the show, for the record. We'll still be doing the show from Florida.
Yeah.
But,
it just so happened it was when I got down there and the Jacksonville game, and it was Sunday sauce with Papa Joe and Mary. So, I haven't been at their house in a year and a half.
We could have done it on Monday.
I know we could have gotten stuff done. We could have set it up at a different time, but we're here every Tuesday with you at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We appreciate you. YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, and of course, you can find us on WakeUpCallDT.com, all for free. Make sure you subscribe. And of course, Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, Twitter at CallDT, Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. For now, as we head into the playoffs, our full bracket is in front of you, and you can feel free to share your thoughts with us as well. For Brendan Murphy, I'm Dan Tortora. This is Designated Diamonds, and we will see you every Tuesday from here on out, because Jiminy Cricket is now sitting very well on my shoulder. Thank you, Brendan.